Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Pathway, our new Premier Soccer Leagues of Canada show. And you've reached us right in the place where we're going to give you 2 times a month the updates of everything that's going on in across the leagues, across our beautiful country. Now, this is YouTube, so before you do anything else, please be sure to like and subscribe because we want to grow this channel and we want to grow this offering just for you. So as we start episode 1, we're going to get right into an interview that I did with Thomas Skublak, and we're excited to bring you some of the juice there because, you know, he's been pretty viral recently, and we're ready and excited to get all the gossip from Thomas. So I am delighted to introduce our very first interview feature for The Pathway, and it is with one of the CPL's early season personalities, Thomas Skublak. How are you doing, Thomas?
Better than I deserve. Better than I deserve, that's for sure.
Better than you deserve. Okay, very, very cool way to start the conversation. Look, Thomas, you've had a really interesting footballing journey already, and it's a super exciting time in Canada, in the CPL, even for Inter Toronto. How's the mood in the camp at the moment?
I mean, I think it's great. We have a very good squad, in my opinion, one that I definitely think can be competing for the title. Obviously that's our intention and that's our goal, but 4 games so far this season. We go away to play Pacific this weekend for our fifth and longest road trip, I guess you could say, but undefeated so far, 2 wins, 2 losses. I think the players are super stoked about that, and we're just going to keep pushing forward to try to keep that streak going.
Awesome. Now, if you're a CPL fan, you would have had to have been living under a rock to not see a certain celebration recently. So let's touch on that a little bit. Whose idea was the business card? Because it was friggin' genius.
Yeah, so it was definitely my idea. I've been thinking about it a little bit now in the league specifically. And I did, we did our social media stuff where we're doing our celebrations and before the season started, and I was thinking, what best way to utilize both of the things that I do together. And I thought, yes, I can score a goal and do a celebration, and I scored against Cavalry as well, and decided not to do it just because it wasn't a home game. I thought the best way to really utilize it was to do, a goal at the home game, and it happened to be a really nice goal too. So I was super stoked about that, and I had it planned the whole time. I was like, I have 10 seconds of fame. How can I utilize, the audience that watches the CPL to kind of broadcast the fact that I'm a realtor? And that's kind of when I came up with it. And obviously, there was some repercussions for it, but I definitely think it was well worth, the consequences for the reward that was gained from it.
I think with the CPL being such a connected league to the community, people connected with that moment because it felt authentic. How important is it for you think for players to show their personalities from outside of football too while they're on the pitch?
I think it's super important, especially for a lot of the kids that are watching, right? Like at the end of the day, yes, you could be a footballer, but at the same time, you're a human being, and what you do off the pitch, means just as much as what you do on the pitch. And I think a lot of people have that mentality where, they can only be the person that they anticipate to be through football, but you could do that in other avenues, whether it's playing football, whether you help out at a local food, drive, or if your passion is golfing. Like you could do stuff outside of football that, you can create a name for yourself. And I just thought it was super important for me specifically. I feel like there's that little gray area of disconnect when players are finally done playing. What do they do next type of situation? And I'm fortunate enough where, I kind of trialed that as I was playing football so that I don't have to go through that gray area. And I know, with research and everything, mental health is a big aspect when people retire, right? So, and part of that is not knowing what their identity is. So I think it's super important for people to have that, not necessarily figured out, but be on the path to understanding that, yes, it's important what you do on the pitch. Yes, it's important how you represent yourself when you're playing soccer. But at the same time, who you are as a human also matters.
Perfect. And you're talking a lot about off the pitch, which is obviously so important. Mm-hmm. But what about on the pitch? Now you've got this whole new almost fan base looking at you. How would you introduce yourself to them? How would you describe yourself to them as a footballer?
I would say I'm definitely one that tries to utilize IQ as much as possible. Making sure that you're doing the stuff off the pitch when it comes to nutrition, recovery, research on who you're playing against, what they're doing specifically. I'm very big into doing that kind of, preparation when it comes to match days. But at the same time, understanding that it doesn't just come, like you also have to work. So, going to training, being there 150% mentally as well as physically, making sure that, you're taking care of your body so that you can play to the best of your ability.
So I did want to touch on your time in the OPL. Can you guide us through the career which got you through the OPL and then back into the CPL eventually? Yeah.
So I started out at Halifax my first year playing professionally. I did a year there and then I went overseas. So I was in Europe for about 2 years playing over there, and then the pandemic hit. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? I was coming back home. The leagues were shut down in Europe that I was playing in. And I was like, well, the CPL is in a bubble right now. All the teams are full. So I don't really have anywhere to go other than, starting work, which is when I started my real estate business, but also playing League One. So I played League One, played at Guelph there, had a good run. I mean, I think in the last 3 or 4 years, you guys can quote me if I'm wrong, but I have about 60 goals in like 48 games or something like that. And, I just kept my head down, played League One, just did what I'm supposed to do as a striker, score goals and hope that the opportunity presents itself. And, I've been in chats with Inter Toronto last year and the opportunity came up. We had conversations. I guess I was performing well and they decided to pull the trigger. So it went from, just keeping my head down, being as positive as I can and as professional as I can in that League One scene to now playing in the CPL, which has a lot more resources and a lot more eyeballs.
And how instrumental would you say the time was in terms of not just keeping your fitness up, but actually growing your game and becoming accustomed to the game that you are now playing with Inter Toronto?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was super important that the clubs that I did play on when I was playing in League One had fantastic coaches. So you had good people that were pushing you in the positive ways and you were also learning, right? Like at the end of the day, when I stopped playing professionally, I was in my early 20s. And then I was like, okay, what do I want to do? Well, I still have a big passion for football. It just wasn't, I guess, the right timing at that time. So having those people in your corner that are pushing you to be better version that you were yourself the year before, as well as guiding you and, acting more so as a mentor to what do I do next? What can you do next? These are the things you should improve on so that if the opportunity came, you can capitalize on it. And I think, having those great people, specifically John, who was a coach at Scrisapi there, he was fantastic. Mm-hmm. And I think he was a very big part in me, not only, returning into the CPL, but like continue on playing.
In terms of Canadian soccer, obviously we've got the World Cups around the corner, which is a huge set of eyeballs across the country. But CPL, so much momentum in that league as well. Obviously, in terms of so many viral moments as well. The whole world is now starting to watch the league. Does it feel like Canadian soccer is entering a different phase right now in terms of attention, opportunity, and the future growth perspective?
Yeah, no, I definitely think so. I think, hosting the World Cup was a big advantage for the league, just because, with stuff happening here, there's more eyes on us, right? So the more eyes that we see here, the more possibilities for the players to go elsewhere or to grow in the league and get the league to get bigger with more teams. I think it's super important that we utilize the fact that we're hosting because that attention is coming to us, as well as some of those younger players that are developing.
And you've made a huge bang at the start of the season. What do you hope that fans remember about Thomas Skublak by the end of the season?
I think the biggest thing that I want them to remember is that I try to be a winner. The biggest thing for me is to win. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be me that's, providing the goals to win. As long as the team is doing well and we're doing what, the goal is, which is win the season. I'm very happy with that. And, I do have a personality off the field, but I definitely have one on the pitch as well.
Amazing, Thomas. Thanks for your time. Good luck with the match this week and also good luck with the upcoming season as well. We'd love to have you back on later in the season as well.
I would love that. I appreciate it as well.
Now, one of the things I'm most excited about is bringing you the roundtable every episode, where we get to talk to experts from across the country about their opinions on the things that are happening in and around the league, amongst the players and the teams. And what better way to start than talk about the changes that have happened across the country with our guests this week, Alf, Carlisle, and Nelson. Let's take it away. Amazing. So this is the first roundtable segment of episode 1. And we're going to talk big picture today. We're going to talk about the new era of Canadian soccer. Obviously, a couple of weeks away only from the biggest show in town coming through. And also at the same time, big new chapters for us to talk about as well. So we're here this week to talk about the new identity of Premier League Soccer Canada and just frame the evolution that's going on at the moment as well. I'm joined by 3 awesome guests. Some of it you'll be familiar with. Alf, Carlisle, and Nelson. How are you doing, folks?
Doing very well.
With you, Aizaz.
Thank you.
Really great today.
Amazing. I know we have a lot to talk about today, so we're going to jump right in. And I'm going to speak to Alf first and say, Alf, what's actually changed? The new identity with the PSL, alignment across the leagues. Can you talk us through the changes?
Yeah, of course. The 3 regional leagues in Ontario, British Columbia, and Alberta have come under one umbrella, the Premier Soccer Leagues of Canada. All sharing a similar identity and obviously all with a similar pathway that will encourage players obviously to make their way to the top of the pyramid, which at the moment, as we know, is the Canadian Premier League. So that is the new look, the new feel, the new structure of what were originally referred to as League One, and I think there's a tremendous amount of excitement. I know obviously the newer regional leagues in Alberta and specifically across the prairies that's coming online this year. A tremendous amount of excitement for those new groups joining the existing brands in Ontario and British Columbia.
Carlisle, why do you think the evolution matters right now? There's a lot of change going on at the same time. What do you think are the benefits of this?
I think there's the background of development of the sport in this country has been a lot of different silos for a long time, where it was either a professional organization at MLS teams who had academy pipelines for themselves, a lot of grassroots organizations that were kind of their own operation. And I think the biggest benefit of what's been putting everything under an umbrella, like we've seen with this, is about a cohesive vision and creating a pipeline that works together as opposed to individually. And with the identities that have been created for this level of competition across the country, there's a shared vision there that I think will trickle down to all levels of the sport, because each organization, you're trying to build community attachment to these clubs, and that all feeds into itself, all building up to the top of the pyramid. And of course, the goal is to get players playing at a higher level. And the best way to do that is to have a shared vision that each club, organization, player, coach, everyone involved is working toward.
And sticking with you, Carlisle, we talked about the league, we talked about teams, and right at the end there, you just touched on the thing player. So in terms of the Canadian players, why do you think this domestic development matters most for them?
I think it's about opportunity, because success breeds success. And, there have been some examples of players getting to high levels coming out of what used to be League One and is now the Ontario Premier League. And that can only get more frequent. We're only going to be telling those stories more frequently, especially with the idea of what the World Cup can do this summer. The elephant in the room is that you touched on off the top of this conversation about what that's going to be for visibility, the attention, and seeing players at the highest level wearing the Canada shirt on home soil, motivation. What could be greater motivation than that?
So Nelson, just bringing that into line with creating the football culture in Canada. So we talked about the league and the teams. Carlisle just touched on the player. Ultimately, what this can also benefit is the fans as well, and the culture around football in Canada. Can you see this alignment now helping to grow the culture, particularly local club identity, but then also a big one, which is the community? How do you see that connection all coming together?
Well, across the country, with all the different premier leagues in BC, Alberta, now the Prairies, Ontario, Quebec, we see this grassroots movement that the larger culture that we see with major clubs, the 3 MLS clubs, our 8 CPL sides, is now being transported to that local level. When I was working with Guelph United, we had fans create a supporters group with their own chants, their drums, their flags, their tifos, and you're seeing that across the country. And when young players in that development pathway are seeing this, they realize that they can achieve those dreams at home, and that then reflects onto those younger players, that reflects onto the youth. And when clubs are rebranding, we look at Harborside FC going to rebranding with their club side to Nanaimo United. It really makes those young players say, I can do that one day. That can be me. I can see myself in the CPL or beyond. So this culture, it's really allowing those smaller communities to rally around these clubs, especially now as with the growth of these leagues in markets that do not or cannot possibly sustain a professional side.
Why do you think that the regional football culture matters in terms of, what can it do for storytelling and visibility for that region as it pertains to a wider soccer environment?
Well, I mean, the case that everyone likes to compare soccer culture to is that of the UK, is that of England. And England is a storied country when it comes to this game, the beautiful game. But one thing is that although they have different cultures around the country, their smaller nature means that there is a bit more of unification. In a country as vast as Canada, fans supporting a club in Saskatchewan are going to vary differently in fans supporting clubs in Quebec. The histories that they're pulling from in regards to their own particular regions, whether it be local history, sporting history, it all varies so greatly. And then you layer on top of it, again, those regional cultural differences. And it allows this beautiful mosaic that we're also accustomed to as Canadians in regards to like the fabric of our country's makeup to then be reflected in the sporting world. So having these regional leagues pop up, having so many different teams allows for that to be seen on a national level. And we get to see that because of the Canadian Championship with the participation of the PSLC sides in that competition.
Alf, I'm going to bring it back to you because I subscribe to your updates on LinkedIn, and you're always able to frame everything that's going on across the country in a great digestible way. What does success look like in terms of what progress should we be seeing over the next few years with all of these changes?
Well, I think that progress can only be found in the movement and development of players from one level to another. I think it's significant to note that the OPL has moved upwards of 300 players beyond, that specific league onto other leagues in Canada and abroad. And I think it's a place for emerging young talent to grow and develop, but not every player follows a similar development pathway. So, some will find success at a much earlier age. You think of players like Shilo Joma, who is, stepped into Inter Toronto's program at such a young age. And then you look at, players like Thomas Skublak, who's only made that, move a little bit later in his development pathway. So I think those are two different scenarios, but both because of the fact that there was a system in place for them to be able to gain experience and knowledge, and the ability to be able to draw from the expertise from their coaching and some of the players. Because let's also consider the fact that that some former CPLers are reintegrating back into these provincial leagues, and they're an important part of the development and of younger players. They help to guide them and lead them on to greater success. So I think progression is going to be evident in the movement of players up the chain, up the ladder. But I think that certainly there are on a community level, as Nelson was speaking about, the attention that some of these clubs draw. And I think in particular a club that I'm very close to, Borough FC, who is only in their third year of existence, but they're setting attendance records game in and game out. So there's a tremendous amount of following if the organization has been able to identify its fan base and its sort of cultural relevance within the community.
And Carlisle, from a perspective of what Alf just said, in terms of there's everything going on with the clubs and the league as well. But Nelson touched on something super important around the fan engagement side. How do you think the fans can really benefit from this from a success perspective?
I think the biggest benefit is about identity and the having a connection to a club. As Nelson was talking about, the cultural parallels that I think we're trying to emulate here is with the UK and with the English football system, because that's so ingrained in each community. Its club they're so intertwined. They're one and the same.
Yeah.
And with that, you're trying to emulate, because you're not going to replicate that perfectly here by any means, but in tying a club to a community, beyond, you're not playing for the world championship or anything on any given Sunday in these leagues. You're playing for passion, connection to your community. You're cheering for players to do well and move up, and a lot of times coming from their own community. So many of these clubs are built on their own grassroots that they've put down in their own hometown. And that's what I think is you can sell. If you can't sell that, you're in the wrong business. That's what we should be doing. Alf mentioned, the success of Borough. A similar, I think it's built on the same idea of what Hamilton was doing at the CPL with bringing in school kids. Every single team at this level should be looking at how they can do that for themselves as well. May not have the facility, Hamilton Stadium is what it is, of course, but for the most part, every team at this level is in a community that has some sort of stadium facility. It may not be this one they play in every week, but access to that, I would be absolutely exploring those options, because that's an easy win, is to get a bunch of school kids out there cheering for them, get them in early.
Okay, so quick fire round as we bring this first roundtable to a close. I'll start with you, Nelson. So players, clubs, storylines to watch. Tell me about a team we should keep our eye on.
I'm going to be honest, as someone who is living in Thunder Bay, I'm going to have to go with the local team and look at the Thunder Bay Chill in the Prairies Premier League. They have a storied history in the USL2. And now they are making their return. They've been repatriated to Canada. They're building a fully local team. In conversations that I've had with the executive director and head coach, Tony and Marco Calistro, respectively, they're really trying to maintain that historic presence they've had in the Canadian soccer world. Many great Canadian names have passed through their club, and I'm just really excited to see how they fare in this brand new league. No one knows what's going to happen in the Prairies. And after they finish this exhibition year, as it's been described by Hassan Mowgli of Soccer Saskatchewan, where does this Prairies League, where does these teams fit within the national structure, and how do they fare on the national stage?
Alf, same with you, and you can't say Borough.
No, I've already mentioned Borough, but I would look very closely at the program that International FC is putting together. This is a group that I've known since they founded what was originally an academy for youth players. And this is their 17th year of operation, but it's their first year as an OPL license holder. And I would look out for them because they have great ambitions. They have recruited a number of top experienced players who have CPL experience, and young players who have had experience at the OPL level as well. And they have a tremendous coaching staff that has had experience, that have UEFA badges and have had experience at many other foreign clubs, and are bringing together a really impressive program that I think fans should keep an eye out for.
And Carlisle, one from you too, please, to wrap us up.
I'll stay close to my neck of the woods as well. I'm based in London, but just to the south of us is St. Thomas, the home of Railway City. Their debut season last year, in particular their women's side. I was speaking with their coach Anthony Vassallo before their opening match this year, and they were gutted to just miss out on promotion last year. He's been very clear that they intend to climb the ranks in the years ahead, and I just think that's a fantastic mentality to have when the whole rebrand to a promotion relegation system was introduced in Ontario. Those are the kind of stories we were hoping for. They've got Raquel Mitchell, who recently had a call-up for Grenada's national team. She scored her first goal for them. I had a lot of fun watching her play last summer, so I'm really excited to see what she does for them this year.
Well, thank you all, three of you. Can't wait to have you on to discuss more topics. If you're watching this on our YouTube, please get in the comments and give us some more roundtable topics we want to talk about. We want to make this as interactive as possible with the fans as well. And yeah, excited to see where this particular conversation goes, where we'll be able to hear different voices at the same time. So thanks for watching, and on to the next segment of the show. On to our second interview. And we're speaking now to Charity Field of Unity FC back in her home province of BC. And Charity was actually one of the 3 stars of the month from BCPL. So she's made an amazing start to this new season. Let's see what's inspiring her to have this start and get a bit more insight from Charity Fields. Okay, so joining me now is one of the standout players from the early part of the BCPL women's season, Unity FC's Charity Field. She's already been recognized as one of the league's players of the month for April. So we're so happy to have her on episode 1. And she's also earned 3 Team of the Week's selections to start the year. So we're going to get all into that because something must be inspiring Charity. We'll talk a bit about her football journey, the strong start for the team, Unity FC too. And of course, the bigger growth that's happening across the women's game in Canada right now. Charity, thanks so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me here. I'm doing great. Excited to get into this. So.
Yeah, we're very, very excited to have you too. So thanks for joining us and illuminating our first episode. So in your words, talk us through the start of the season. How's it felt personally for you so far?
Yeah, we came into this season with a lot of changes, a lot of different personnel, players, even a little bit of change in the coaching staff. And so I didn't really know what to expect coming in, but yeah, it's been a super awesome start to the season. I feel like the girls have really just melded together, and our coaching staff has been so awesome and encouraging, and finding kind of what the team needs and where we want to go. So the start to the season has been really cool.
Very cool. Yeah, go for it. Okay, so I mean, being recognized as one of the players of the month and making the team of the week multiple times already. I said that in the intro, so I just want to double click on that because obviously you've spoken so well about the team, but what does those moments mean to you specifically as an individual?
Yeah, I mean, as an athlete, it's always, it feels good to get recognition for the work that you're putting in. So obviously, it has meant something to me. I think I just kind of had the mindset this season coming out of my university career where sometimes everything just can feel like a lot of pressure lots going on, I'm just like, I want to take this summer league and just have the most fun that I can and be confident on the field and just go out and enjoy soccer. So that's kind of the stance I've taken going into this season, and it's obviously worked. I mean, yeah, it's been a good start, and the recognition, yeah, it feels good, and it helps too. And even just putting together a resume, if I want to go to the next level and stuff, obviously that helps.
So you are playing locally. So you grew up in Burnaby. So we want to take it right back. Like, what first got you into football? Who were some of your heroes growing up? And what really got you connected with the game that you've come to excel at?
Yeah, well, both my parents grew up playing soccer, each at different levels. So it was kind of I have two older brothers and a younger sister. And my dad, very much from the time that we could start running around, the soccer ball was at our feet. So I've been playing ever since I was like maybe 3 or 4. I think for me, it's just the women's game now has like come along and developed further, but it still like has a lot of work to go here in North America. I mean, so it's like just even like looking up to Christine Sinclair, obviously, and she grew up right here in Burnaby. She used to run the hills that I live on. So just having role models like that are doing amazing things in the game is super, super inspiring to see women get at it and out there. So
perfect. So how important do you think the leagues like the BCPL are becoming for Canadian players, especially on the women's side?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is when you look at it, I feel like there are a lot of barriers for women in sport. So having a league like this, I think is really awesome, because you see it happen all the time. Like girls that I've grown up playing with that are like amazing players, went through university, got recognition in university, they don't even play soccer anymore, just because it's hard to find that the level that it's like, I come out of university, I'm playing at a high level, and then to play in a competitive league and keep growing as a player, I think sometimes is harder for women because we don't have as many opportunities. But obviously leagues like this, the new NSL league, like it's getting there in women's sport, and it's really encouraging to see. And so I think leagues like this are, for especially women, just like so important in the development of players in the game.
Amazing. And then just switching gears to your team, you were talking about them earlier. Tell us more about this Unity FC team, because you've made a brilliant start to the season as a team as well. What's the identity? What's the playing style? If someone was to come and watch, what do you think that they'd be most impressed with?
I mean, we're like the girls that are playing together. Some of us have played together in university and are coming back and playing with each other now. Some of us are from other places. So we have a good like core group that played together previously, but we also have like a lot of new young players, which is exciting. And I think that with just maybe some players that we're missing this year from last season, those girls, the younger girls, have really come up and stepped in and taken on that role. I think, just in general, everybody is just like super encouraging and positive towards each other. So everybody just wants everybody else to succeed, which is a really cool environment to play in, and it helps us push each other to get kind of the best out of everybody.
The league's just started. We're just getting heated up. What should the fans expect from yourself, Unity FC, and just the league in general this season?
Yeah, I think hopefully a lot more goals for my team and myself. But yeah, I mean, we're in second right now, so I'm hoping that we'll be playing in a final, and hopefully competing to win the league is the ultimate goal, obviously. But yeah.
Well, the only thing I can say is you got to promise us to come back when those things happen, because we would love to have the update. And I think part of what we want to do with this show as well is get the fans to really know the players that they're watching on the field. So thank you so much for your time and for being our first guest from the BCPL. And yeah, all the best for the rest of the season.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
And there we have it, folks. We have our first episode on the books. We're excited to know what you think of this. Please share this with your friends, share this with your fellow supporters. We really want to make this grow, and we want to make this interactive too. So if you liked what we did, you're inspired, even if you've got things that we can improve on, stick it in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe too. And we're excited to grow this together, just like the leagues and the teams that you support. See you next time.